Hi, Gaye DeRusso, the Majestic rider, here today with Kai. He's a Tennessee walking horse, and he's just 4 years old, and you can see he's very large. I think he's 16.3. So, as I've told you before, Gaited horses, especially walking horses, grow a long time, so he's probably going to end up being 17 hands. He's here today for a tune-up. He got a little scared with bikes, had an episode, and so we're working on that. But we're also tuning his gaits up some. He was sold by a trainer. She did a very nice job and taught him a lot. And that makes it much easier for me. Whoa, don't leave. See, they test everybody. So give them rules. Make sure they abide by them. Don't let them walk off if you didn't ask them to walk off, because that's how they start making associations, especially the young ones. They're ready to go because he's been tied up for a bit. Okay. So just wait, breathe, and then when you're ready, use your leg and ask them to go, because most people go like this with their hands, and then the horse thinks that's a signal to go. So I start them all off the same, no matter how much training they've had, so I know what they know and what they don't know. And it should be the same with riders. I always ask people, like, I can just start in and start doing stuff, or I can take you from the ground up. And most people go, no, just, as we go, tell me. But due to that, there's a lot of steps they might not know that I don't cover, because I don't know they didn't know it. So this is just the lateral flexion. I teach them all to do this, to give to the bit. It helps me if their bridle ever breaks on trail or something goes wrong. And it also helps you with your one rein stop. Okay? So we're going to do that side again, because that wasn't as good. Go boy. And then we're going to do vertical flexion. Now I teach them all this because it makes it much easier when you do ask them to put their head down and engage themselves. But it's not just the head, it's the body tensing up or relaxing that helps us to get the gait. And he was very kind of wobbly when I started the other day, and we had him in a snaffle bit, and he just really leaned on that bit. Every horse is different on if they like snaffles or not. He played with it a lot more than he did this one. I'm going to do some one rein stops to teach him this. So I have a video on one rein stops. Go boy. But it's always good to teach your horse this, so in case an emergency, if you need to do it, they have an idea what it means. Horses do not naturally know what a one rein stop is. But this can save you, but you always got to look before you pull, in case the horse doesn't stop and it starts to spin. And it also helps to get a good stop on the horse, because as I'm doing it, I sit back, take my legs off, breathe, and then I pull on that one rein if they didn't stop. So he's very smart. He's got a lot going for him. He was bred well, he's got training on him, and he's a smart horse. Now, not all of you might have that, and that's okay. Go boy. Good job. So he has an idea what the one rein stop is. So now we're going to go to circles. So what I did with him is I changed the bit because he was very heavy in the bit. He just wanted to lean on it. So I wanted to give him something new to make it a little bit different. And what I want him to do, now he knows how to bring his head down really well, and he's very light in the bridle. But I want to be able to adjust his head and not have him hanging on the bit. With these walking horses, a lot of them are what we call rear wheel drive. They have such overstrides in the back end that you really got to get them to engage their back end and use it correctly for you to get that really good glide ride. If you don't, many of them are heavy on their front end. They have very large chest, kind of like a boxer dog. That big heavy chest and barrel, and not as big back ends. Their back ends are usually a little bit more lanky, and that helps them to swing up underneath themselves. And each walking horse is different. If you got one of the ones which we call World Grand Champions, those are the ones that were bred later for the show ring. They usually have massive overstride and can be on the pacey side, where if you get the old foundation lines, or what they call heritage bred, like the McCurdy plantation horses, they're usually do not have as large a stride. They're usually not as pacey. They got some trot in them, or they just gait. So now I'm just making a figure 8 and working on bending. and those horses aren't as heavy on their front ends, and they're more all-wheel drive versus rear wheel. So it depends on what kind of walking horse you got. They are not all the same, and you should know that. Okay. So I like to start with lots of walking and bending. Okay. The bending is a suppling exercise, which just means it makes your horse more flexible. Now, you might think your walking horse is flexible through its body, but can you control it? You have to be able to control its flexibility and keep all its body parts together for them to gait really well. Okay? I like to describe walking horses kind of like you got a bunch of junk in the middle of the room. It's all over the place. But if you go pick up that junk and you put all that junk together, you might make something magical out of it. But just looking at that junk in separate pieces, you wouldn't know that. So the walking horses, if you don't ride them with what I call semi-collection and engagement, they kind of go kind of strung out. Now, you might think this is just fine. And it is fine if you're walking for short periods of time, or he's walking out in the field alone because he's not carrying me too. But to make it healthy for him to carry me, I must ride balanced to protect his body, and he must be balanced underneath me to carry me correctly so he doesn't injure his back. But riding a horse strung out like that all the time, although you think is nice, is not great for their body in the long run. Okay, so what we're going to start doing is I'm just going to make some circles. This is my arena routine. I have it written out, and I have it in many other videos. But I like to start with big 20-meter circles after I make that small circles and the figure 8 and the serpentine. And I do this every new horse that comes in. So they all know the same routine, so I don't have to write it out 20 times. And I'm just doing this at a trail walk in the beginning. I'm keeping them right in between my hands and my legs, and I'm staring at that tire at the end of the arena, tracing an imaginary line. These horses are not like quarter horses. You know, it's got a mix of breeds in the walking horses, and they're bred to be more flexible, and due to that, they don't travel in straight lines great. They kind of wobble when they're going slow, and then they go straighter and straighter as they engage and go faster. So that's what they are. So to ride them and get the most out of them, if you ride them with some light contact, with some semi-collection, and you get them driving off of their back end, which is engagement, and I'll get more into that, but I do have another video on engagement. That's when you get that such a light ride and you're gliding across the ground like you're on a magic carpet, and it's so fun. Okay? So, but to get there, you got to do a good warm-up. You got to make sure the horse has the basics on it so you can communicate to it and tell it what you want it to do, because if they don't have any training and there's no basics on it, the horse doesn't understand whoa means stop. They don't understand pull on the reins means back up. They don't understand standing next to the mounting block means you're going to get on it. They don't understand any of it. So most of the time when you're having problems with these horses, it is because they're bred so calm and they're so tolerant that people do lots of things to them. And because you think that horse is trained, because you couldn't do that to any other untrained horse. Imagine doing the stuff you do to your walking horse to an Arab. It'd probably kill you. So now we're going to do the leg yield. So you got to teach them those basics. This leg yield is very important, and I can tell you a lot of people don't know how to do it. And you might be like, well, that's basic dressage. It is, which just means training. But if he doesn't understand to move sideways off my leg, I can't push him over if there's a tree in the way. I can't push him over and separate his legs if he starts pacing. That helps a lot with the pacing horses. Okay? And it also helps them to get to relax. When you're riding next to your friend and your friend keeps bumping into you because they're not controlling your horse, you can slowly just move away from them without them knowing you are doing that on purpose. Okay? So again, he knows this stuff. He knows how to do the leg yield, and he also knows a little bit of shoulder in, and all those things help to break up the pace. So again, I'm not going to cover how to do those things in this video. I'm just going to talk more about walking horses, and you can watch my leg yielding and shoulder in video. Okay? So we just want to make sure he understands my cues, because all trainers are different. So I got to make sure, even though he knows how to do it, I know how to do it with them. And that's why I tell people, when you're training horses, train them the same. Don't train them for you, because you're not going to be riding them long term in the end. Train them for the people that are going to have some basic knowledge. They're not going to be high level dressage riders. So the horse doesn't need to know the high level stuff. It just needs to know the basics and have a clue, because if you overdo it, you'll give that horse too many buttons, and the horse and the people will get confused. So I didn't even pull on him. I stopped riding and I sat back a little bit, and now I'm backing up to make his whoa even better. Okay. Now I do that a lot. I back up after my whoa, and then I just sit here and let them relax for a minute, and then I walk off. If they start going backwards again, I just turn sideways. So I always do lots of backups. It makes your whoa much better. And I always do it after my whoa in the beginning, and then I'll start to separate it. The more you practice your backups, your leg off, sit back, breathe. And I have an article, how to stop them without the reins. Well, but the better their backup, the better their whoa will be, and the more you can engage that horse as well. Backing up is good for their stifles, good for their back and top line. It does so many things. Okay. So, because of the way the walking horse is built, we want them to drive with their back end. That's going to get us the best gait. So we got to get the power underneath us, not like walking into a pole. So to get the power up underneath you, you do lots of suppling exercises, and then also, again, some backing up. If you don't know what it feels like when a horse is engaged, it's that moment that I go from backwards to forward. So I'm going to go to forward right now. And you feel them push off with that back end, okay? That's what engagement feels like. You can feel that horse pushing off with its back end. So if you've ever gone up a really steep hill and the horse is walking or doing a flat walk, I'm going to stop and do a turn on the forehand. As they do that, hang on one second, I'm coming back. Oh boy, good job. Now we're going to walk our circles in this way. So as you go up the hill and you feel that horse digging its back feet into that hill and pushing you up that hill, that's engagement. They're engaging their back end to drive off of it and become stronger. So you're trying to harness that horsepower and use it to help you. We're just doing a trail walk. We're not gating yet, okay? In time I'll do this with him gating, but he's new, and so I try not to confuse them in the beginning, and I want to make sure they have a good trail walk with their legs landing 4 separate times, okay? Now, as I work on engaging him again, to get the feeling, you can either go forward and backwards, so you feel that horse pushing off, because you got to get the feel to know what it is first. You can go take a lesson on someone's horse, or just walk the hills with your horse. And when you're going up a hill, don't let them pick their head up, especially if it's a walking horse. If you let them pick their head up high, in other words, like up here, as you're going up the hill, they will pull instead of push. So that means they're pulling with their front legs and their shoulders. We want them driving with their back end, just like I walk up a hill, okay? If I was on my hands and my knees and it was a very steep hill, yes, I'm going to pull myself instead, and I would not be using my legs as much, so that would not be engaging my back end. So the walking horses very easily can put their heads up and pull themselves up the hill because they have such large front ends, but you don't want them to. You want them, unless you're in big trouble, if you get stuck somewhere, you let that horse do whatever to get you out of there. But otherwise, when you're trying to ride them balanced and keep your horse healthy for the long run, you're trying to get them to push off that back end. Okay. So, the reason I make lots of circles is it gets the horse to bend with his body, so it becomes more flexible, which also means supple. So I'm always trying to educate you guys with these words in case somebody says them to you so you know what they mean. So they become more supple, and by going to his body and getting a slight bend, which means a slight arc in his body, like he's bending to the right now, it's going to help get his inside leg, which is his right hind leg, to drive up underneath him. And by doing that, he's going to engage himself more. So a lot of people, when you see them, and they're good trainers with these gaited horses and these walking horses, they're making lots of circles. The horses that are not so supple, or they might be speed rackets or something, they like those horses with a little bit more tension and not as supple because they're not doing these slower gaits. And so you might see them making just more straight lines down the road. Okay? So if you got like a speed racker, it might not know how to bend or do any of these things. But if you got a show horse that did the flat shod, like not those big shoes, and it gaits really well, that horse probably has had some suppling work. Okay? All right. So now I'm just doing the leg yielding a couple of times, and then we got the backup, and then we're going to move forward. So again, right now, I'm just trying to ride him in a neutral body frame with his head kind of lower than the front of my saddle. This horse can pace, trot, and gait when he's loose, and the way he's bred, he has some world grand champions in him, but he also has some foundation lines. So he doesn't have that large overstride. That large overstride, he backs up a little crooked, didn't you? Makes him swing more underneath him, and I can immediately see it when people send me videos because they overreach, usually a foot to 3 foot or more. He kind of steps in his front hoof print and will overstride a little bit, but it's nothing compared to those other kinds of walking horses, okay? These horses usually have it easier on the trail. It doesn't mean the other horses are bad on the trail. You just got to help them and do lots of pull work so you get them so they're not as pacey. And you teach them how to use those feet better because some of them don't seem to have the greatest proprioception. And so if they don't have great proprioception, don't know where their feet are as much, they're pacey and you're riding them strung out, guess what? They usually get trippy. So ride with engagement. Ride them with some semi-collection so you're holding them together. My fingers are very light. I could ride this horse with one finger now that I got him out of that snaffle because he just loved leaning on that. So now he's very light. So I'm not pulling on him, but if I ride him like this, I'd have to have my hand up like this the whole time. So yeah, it's a longer rein and I'm riding on the buckle, but who am I fooling? Okay? Some of you might get fooled by that, but that's still got some contact on it. All right, so we're going to stop him and do another turn on the forehand. Not a great stop, so we're going to back you up a little bit. Okay. Now, walking horses, sometimes when you do these turns and side passes, they kind of move in two pieces instead of one. Okay, now we're going to give him a break because he's 4. If he wasn't 4, I would just keep going. But babies need brain breaks because they got baby brain. You can only make them do so much at once. You don't want to blow up their brain and make them into a bolter or something else because you thought they could handle it. Take your time with babies. Don't rush them. Okay? So we're going to do our flat walk next. I'm going to keep us in a 20-meter circle. That does a couple of things. It helps me to know the footing because it's only so much footing to cover because remember, your footing changes your horse's gait. If it's deep footing, puts them more on the trotty side. If it's not much footing, puts them more on the pacey side. The more you help them, then you can help them with that footing. So if it's getting deeper and he's trotty, I might raise his head up, sit back. If he's pacey and it's deeper, I might just tilt a little forward, try to get him to use his back end more and lower his head and relax his neck and back, and that will help keep him out of the pace. So you got to realize that the footing, the terrain in the arenas does change their gait as well as it does out on the trail, and the hills, the inclines and declines also affect how they gait. Okay? Now, we're going to flat walk. It'll start a little slow and then we'll get a little faster. I've been keeping his head down because he was so strung out when he started in the beginning. But if he pokes his nose out a little bit, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with a nice head shake on a looser rein. But right now I probably have to help him a fair amount. And that's okay. That's what you do in the beginning, so then you don't have to help him as much later on. If you're constantly riding like this and, you get a couple steps here and there, well, it's going to take you a long time to get them to gait everywhere, every place, because you're not helping them as much and you're not guiding them. I like to guide and help horses to get there quicker and safer and to understand. But you're also, if you're riding like this, they're going to be strung out. It's not as good for their body in the long run. Okay, so here we go. Okay. So his headset is fine. So the thing with him is he kind of wobbles back and forth as I'm going. Sometimes he gets his head up. Sometimes he lowers it too much. I'm trying to get it right in between. And then you're trying to concentrate and be very light. Okay? Now, some of the time I'll let the rein get a little bit long and I might have to raise my hand up to get the contact. That's just to allow him to have some self-carriage because, again, he's had training. So I know he's going to be able to carry himself more than some of the other horses that come in for training. And he's had circling work and leg yielding and all of that, so he's had the suppling work. Okay? Okay, so all I'm doing is we're going around this circle. I'm alternating my legs. I like to use one leg and then the other for the flat walk to help them to lengthen that stride. And I'm always going to have problems because there's a dip right there in that part of the arena. Okay, in case it looks funny when I get over there. It's probably going to be every single time. So I try to ride them from what's called my inside leg to my outside rein. That means my left rein, because that's towards the inner part of the circle, to my outside rein, which is my right rein. So you're trying to push your horse more off of that left leg and then catch them with your right rein and leg to support them. Whichever rein you're holding on is the one they will usually put more pressure on. So you don't want to hold too much on your inside rein. You want to squeeze and relax as you make that circle. So if I exaggerate it, this is what I'm going to do. Squeeze, squeeze. So I'm doing that with my fingers. You just can't see it because it's not as obvious. And then my outside rein, if you watch it, because I'll exaggerate again, see how my outside rein stays steady? Because that's where I want his weight to go. So he's good. He's getting his head a little low. So that's the hard part, because you might say, well, I heard get his head low because he's pacey. Well, you want it down and relaxed, but not so low that they get more weight on it. Because, again, it's not just the head, it's the body frame and then getting them to drive underneath themselves with that back end. So you have to feel when they get heavy on that front end. You shouldn't feel a lot of pressure on your reins. If you're feeling like the horse is pulling on the reins, like you got a pound of pressure, your horse is not light and it's not engaging. It's just pulling on you. You should be able to ride the horse that it stays in this frame, and it will after a time, and you could just go like this and they would just stay like that, like no contact. But you see, he gets strung out and then he gets on his front end because he's not ready to do that yet. But that's our goal, is to get him to stay in this frame in a little bit looser rein. That doesn't mean a long rein, it just means I can let go of him a little more. So it's very light that I can just ride him with one finger. If you are holding with your fist and very tight, that horse is not light. That means you're carrying them instead of them carrying you. So you got to teach them to get off that rein. So one is that lateral flexion and the vertical flexion makes a huge difference on teaching them to give to pressure. Then just walking and stopping and getting them to give to pressure, and then walking and keeping their head down, giving to pressure. And I have videos on every single one of those things. So you got no excuses except you don't understand my videos. If you can't do it and you've watched all those videos, I give online lessons. They're really not that expensive. That's okay. So he tripped there, not a big deal. Again, the footing, you don't see it. It's underneath the sand, but it goes up and down in here. Okay? So I give live online lessons if you have Pivo, or we've done it through WhatsApp and FaceTime on Messenger and Facebook. And so you're trying to get the help you need so you're not, spending the next 5 years trying to get your horse to gait. It shouldn't take that long if you're doing it right and often enough. Okay? But you're trying to drive these walking horses from the back end towards the front. Don't ride their front end, ride their back end. Get them to drive. So I'm always pressing just a little bit harder with my inside leg There he's lost his attention, so I just kind of bumped him back. And I don't expect him to be great. I haven't been riding him very long, but he's getting there. So once you get them to do this, you're going to get them stronger. Their back's going to get stronger. Their top line will get stronger. Their stifles will get stronger. So many things get better versus if you're riding them like this. And there's a lot more. Now he's like, why'd you let go of me? He thinks he's supposed to stop, but there's a lot more motion. And he immediately got his weight down on his front end. So if he trips or something and he's like this, he's already close to the ground. He's most likely going to fall on his face or go over, and I'm going to go over his head. So you want the weight on the back end and lightness in the front, and that way if they trip, all their weight's back there to start. So it's much easier for them to catch themselves and pick themselves up versus all the weights on the front and they trip. It's like you have a backpack on your back with all these weights in it. You trip and fall forward, and then all those weights make you fall forward even more. So of course you're going to fall down. So if you got a trippy horse, one of the things is, I've talked about poles and working them up medically and all that, but the most important one and the biggest problem I see is people don't ride them correctly. You want to ride them like your old non-gaited horse, but that you bought one that needs your help, or is that got that big overstride. All right, so now we're going to stop. And I always get their head down when I stop. Good boy. So we're going to give them a break. But if you buy one with a big overstride or heavy on the front end or a trippy horse, you got to ride it correctly for it to work out well. If you really want to ride on a loose rein, other breeds usually do it a little bit better. Or a walking horse with a shorter stride. There are many of those. You just got to find them. Okay? But otherwise, a Rocky with a short stride, a Foxtrotter with a short stride, an Icelandic with a short stride. But anything with a big long stride is going to need your help holding it together, getting to engage it some in the beginning, not forever, just in the beginning while you're teaching them, and then over the time, they'll be able to carry themselves. You can be on a looser rein. But lots of people don't understand that training. They don't have the riding education. They're not aware of the horse's body, and that we can cause injury by just riding them like this all the time. As the same thing, if you ride bareback all the time, long periods of time, you can make your horse sore because our weight's not being dispersed. But you might be like, well, they used to do that many, many years ago. And you're like, yeah, but how long did those horses live? How were their backs? And, were they built different? Because all those things affect them. And again, these are my opinions. If you don't agree, it's totally fine. Everybody has their own opinions on things. I'm just telling you from what I know from doing this over 20 years and riding thousands and thousands of different kinds of gaited horses. Some gaited trainers just ride one breed, and some ride them all, and some ride them and don't ride them correctly at all. And they might look like they're smooth, but they might be step pacing, or maybe they're not doing any of the other gaits that we do. Okay, so now we're going to flat walk this direction. So he's very light. I only have a finger and my thumb holding the rein. That's just so you see how light he is. So again, lightness means that he's not leaning on my hands, that he's not pulling me down towards the ground, and he's carrying himself. Some of these horses, especially him, he's so large, have big long necks and big heads. And you don't want to carry that. That's a lot of weight. Now he got slower, so now I'm tapping him with my stick to wake him back up and get him to start using himself again. But again, he's 4. I'm not surprised. He's like, done with this. This is boring. But I got to get him to understand in the arena what to do before I take him out on the trail, and I got to make sure I have good control. Many of you skip all these steps. You don't know your horse. You get out there and you get into trouble. Best to do all the groundwork, do all the arena work, then get out there and start going. And you'll have less problems and be safer for it. Okay? Now, as he goes, I don't put my arms. I just try to keep my arms still, because on the walking horses, your body moves back and forth with that flat walk. As their head goes up and down, your body goes forward and back in the saddle. So you already have motion. So I don't like doing this. So he's like, I don't like it either. Now you might like to do that with your horse. I do not. I try to be still, stay out of their way. So I'm just acting like a pair of side reins would on a surcingle. Okay? I just stay still, and if he pulls on me, I hold until he lightens the pressure and gets back underneath himself. Now he's getting a little bit heavy on his front end, so I'm going to pick the reins up here and there, and then I'm going to let them go back down. So I'm doing that just to try to get his head back up, because I don't want it as low as he's putting it. Then he just fell to the inside, so I just hit him with my inside leg. So the hard part is getting them in the right frame, and then getting there we go, and then getting the right speed for your flat walk. It's just a fast walk where you see their mane going up, well, you see their mane going back and forth, you're moving back and forth in the saddle, and their head is going up and down, and it's a faster walk than you were doing for your trail walk. Now he's starting to get tired. It's towards the end of the week, and so he's getting stuck in some of the deeper footing. So that tells me, hey, I better pay more attention, make sure he's awake, and maybe I'll change where I'm going over there so it's not as deep and I stay a little bit more in the shallow footing. But at some places, like right here, he needs my help, so I kind of held him together, pushed him off the right leg, and right here I'm going to help him. So if anywhere they're tripping or getting heavy, sit back for a moment. Even though I said, if you have a PC horse, you can tilt forward, but if they're tripping, you can't do that. You got to sit back and keep yourself safe. Got a couple more minutes to go, buddy. Now, lots of flat walking is good, especially for the walking horses. If you can do it 10 minutes each side, work up to that. Don't start with that. And get that rhythm going really well. You can put music on, get them light. Don't let their head go too high. Don't let it go too low. And don't let it get all curled up like a dressage horse, because all those things affect their gait. Too high is going to make the pacey horses pacier. Too low is going to make the trotty horses trotty, but the pacey horses heavier on their front end. So you want to get it just at neutral, and then keep riding that same rhythm over and over. But it takes time, and it's so much easier to get this done in the arena versus the trail, where the trail's everly changing, and you can't keep the same speed or you can't keep the same rhythm unless you have big open fire trails or a road. If you do, then that might work out fine. But still make some circles here and there. Now he's getting heavier on his front end. You might not even see it, but I can feel it. So I just kind of lift up like that, and then I release it. If you hold too long and you taught that horse to put its head down, well, when you pick up and hold, it'll feel that pressure and go, oh, it's supposed to go down. And they'll put it down even further, so you don't want to do that. But lots of walking with these horses. Everybody rushes them. And a lot of these show horses that were bred pacey end up being trail horses when they're done with them. And so they're not used to gaiting correctly because the shoe did the gaiting for them. Now they're barefoot or in different shoes and they're pacey, and you got to really retrain them on what to do with their legs. And lots of pulls, because those horses got to find their feet. They're just used to the arena and not used to the trail, and many of them are very trippy to start. And it doesn't take months to get them to be not trippy. It can take years. So you want to do lots of walking over things, walking through tires, just lots of even hiking with your horse, so they learn to balance and get over things without you on their back. And that way you can see too, if you're like, he trips all the time, then you'll be like, something's wrong with him, because even with me not on his back, he's tripping. So that's the problem. Okay. So now we're going to stop, and we're going to give them another break. So give them breaks. Give them time to soak it all in and relax. My breaks are much shorter when I have this video on, because I can't shut it off, but they're much longer when the video's not on. Okay? Now, even if I train this horse, if then he's ridden like this, he's going to go back to being heavy on his front end. He'll be better, but it's not going to stick. It's best that everybody learns how to ride the horse correctly for, how the horse is, the frame and its talon, and if it's trippy or not. So again, some of them you can put on a much looser rein, and other ones you cannot unless you want to trip and fall down. And some people will say to me, that's not true. And I always go, well, how many walking horses have you had? And they go, 3, none of them tripped. And I go, well, I've had thousands, and I've had the ones that are not bred well, and guess what? A lot of them trip. And a lot of the other breeds trip too. The Rockies trip, the Foxtrot's trip. I've had them all fall down with me at different points. So if they're bred well and trained well, yes, they're less likely to trip as long as nothing is medically wrong with them and your saddle fits, because the saddle can make them trip too. But many of the horses I get are problem horses, and that's why they come to me, and that's why what I'm preaching from is all those horses, not the good horses. So I know some of you have never had one that tripped or you fell off of or any of those things, but I have. So that's what those are the people I'm talking to. Okay. So again, remember, we're trying to ride these horses from the back to the front. This is rear wheel drive. Get them to push off of that back end, get their hind quarter underneath them so they round their back a little bit and have their head kind of neutral. So his head's too low right now, but he's on brake. So it'd be more like this. Or if a walking horse has a higher headset, even that's fine, as long as it's going up and down. So if they're flat walking and doing a running walk, they will have head shake. If you're like, my horse doesn't shake its head, well, it's either not a walking horse, it's not doing the running walk, or you're going too fast and you're doing a saddle gait, and that might be it, or it's not engaging itself. Okay? All right, so we're going to go the other direction. So we're going to pick up on the rein. See how when I picked up, he picked his head up. I'm doing lots of turns on the forehand with this horse so I can teach the people how to do it, because that'll save you if you ever get in trouble where the horse is rearing up or doing something. You spin it around, which is that turn on the forehand. I look at my watch because then it helps me to know how long I've been gaiting for. Okay? And with him, I'm just doing 5 minutes each direction. So you see I shorten my reins up to start. Then as he gets better, I might go longer. So this is our flat walk. He's leaning in a little bit. So spurs always help if you have good control of your legs and you have a horse that's leaning in, because they don't like to lean in on those. So we're going to add a little speed now for his running walk. Now he's getting strung out, so I'm going to pick up. So again, his headset's fine there. I don't want it any lower because he gets heavy. Even there is fine. I'm going to bend him. So as you get them engaging and going, the faster the walking horses go, the less motion you have. So this horse in time, his running walk could be even faster. It's just not yet because he's out of condition some. And then he'll be able to do a saddle gait, and I know that because I watched him run loose, and he did a saddle gait when he was loose. So if you have a walking horse, this is how your gaits go in this order and how you should get the gaits and then progress once the horse can do it well. You get your flat walk really good. After that, you go towards your running walk, and you get that really good. Once you can do both of those gaits, then practice your saddle gait. Okay? But those gaits, the flat walk and the running walk, are easy on them. You can do them for long periods of time on the trail, versus the saddle gait puts a little bit more stress on their joints. And if you have a good walking horse, that flat walk and running walk cover a lot of ground. The saddle gait has a shorter stride to it and a little bit more collection. So they're not as much in a neutral body frame, but they're more shortened up for it until you get it good, and then again they can do it in different frames as they get better. So there he's very light, very smooth, but you'll see his head's going to come up and down. He's up and down, he's going to have good steps, and then he's going to have not such good steps. But overall, his breeding, his training, and all of that is quite good, and is helping me out a lot. So I'll be able to get him on trail soon. So I keep bending with my inside rein, squeeze, relax. Every time I do, I push with my inside leg, and then I kind of catch him with my outside leg and keep that steady. But when you're doing the running walk, that was his stifles. A lot of gaited horses have stifle problems, so if your horse ever does that, feels like it's going to sit down, it's a couple of things. Once he's barefoot. When they're barefoot on sand, they don't have as much traction. That means their leg is going to twist more in the sand, which can make their stifle rotate out of position. So I never worry too much when it happens in the arena, because it's sand and most people don't have great sand or traction in the arena. But they have looser stifles so they can swing farther up underneath themselves. Now see how it happened in the same spot each time? So that tells me something in the footing, like there's not much footing there, is causing it. So what we're going to do this next time, and this is what you should do in your arena too if it keeps happening, is now avoid that spot and see what happens. See if it still keeps happening. Because so far that's the only place it has happened in, so don't let that panic you. So I'm going to stay a little bit more in here. Oh, and I do see a big divot right there. Okay? But see how it didn't happen that time? Because I chose a different pathway to go on. Now, he's getting a little tired, so I'm having to keep a little bit more contact on him. But again, I didn't give him very long breaks. So at times he's leaning down, getting too much pressure on the rein. And the other thing, because, you know, I'm talking to you, I can get distracted as well. So you're trying to make sure you stay focused on what you're doing. Don't be thinking about the groceries later. Get DoorDash to do that for you or something like that. But get them paying attention. You pay attention to what you're doing with them. And then try only to stop when they're doing a good job. I didn't mean now. He's like, I heard good job. Everybody says that and then stops their horse. So the horse thinks good job means stop. Hi. So we're getting it back to our groove together. Now he's doing pretty good. I try not to stop by the gate or the other horses or they'll get attracted to him. So now I just take my legs off, breathe, get his head down. I always like to get their head down when he stops because lots of horses pull on the reins and get in a bad habit of that. Okay, now we'll let him sit again. So overall, that was good, that direction. He was getting tired towards the end. Walking horses can be very different, but a lot of them that end up being on the trail are ex-show horses, and it takes a lot of time for them to get their footing and their proprioception because they're just used to arenas, or they had big heavy shoes on their feet, so they're not used to how their feet feel. And it takes time, a couple of years, for them to be able to go out on that trail and do it well. And the more you help them, the more you set them up for success. Instead of taking them out on a 6-hour hard terrain ride and he keeps tripping and falling down and you think he needs to go to sleep because he's a bad horse, it's usually that they've never done it before and they don't feel their feet the same because they've had damage to them and they don't know what to do. So you just got to give them time. Just take them hiking. Lots of times I hike with these horses and I crawl over things and I step over things because I want them to build trust with me. But I'm also showing them how to do it. Now you could have another horse in front of you showing them how to do it and they'll figure it out in time. But again, it takes each horse a different amount of time to get there. So the calm ones are going to be a little lazier. Okay, he's pretty good. He's kind of right in between, but he could get really lazy, or if somebody had him who was hyper, he could get really hyper. Okay, but if you have a lazy, dull one, the good thing is he'll probably try never to hurt you, but he might fall asleep, and he might not engage himself, and he might get trippy, so you might have to really, really ride him when you're riding him. But the benefit is you have a horse that doesn't react to anything. And then the horses, we're going to go the other way, that are more sensitive and reactive, you know, you got to be careful with that. You don't do too much too fast and scare them because those horses aren't the same. And so you got to adjust your your energy for that horse and your riding for that horse. Some are going to be better balanced, and you're not going to have to ride with as much contact as I'm telling you, and some are going to be worse balanced, and you're going to have to ride with even more contact than I'm telling you in the beginning. But when you're riding these horses, you're asking them to do something, then you release, because you're trying to get that horse to carry himself. But in the beginning, you might have to do a lot of carrying. But as the months are going by, you're like, I got to give him a chance to carry himself. And if they're just leaning on the bit, you make sure that you know what the bit is first. That the horse understands the bit, which he understood the snaffle. But he understood he could lean on the rider's hands. So we don't want him leaning on our hands. We want him to carry us, because that would hurt our shoulders. Now there he just got really slow. He's not going to the bathroom. Now he's getting his head a little too low. So you really got to multitask up here to ride them correctly. And that's why the older ones, they have more muscle tone. They usually have more training on them. Not always, but usually. And so you get to do less. The younger ones, you're the teacher. You're the trainer. You're the coach, and you got to help them. Here he's getting a little heavy. Now I just kind of got him with my right spur, and then I gave a little tap. Then I supported with the outside rein. I did all of that within seconds. And I don't expect you to do that. It just takes time, and it's better to go slower if you can't do it all together, or just stay at that flat walk and get that really, really good before you try adding for speed, because most people go for the speed too quick. They're not ready. The horse is not ready, and it just falls apart. Here he's too heavy. So I pushed with my inside leg, caught him with my outside rein. And big horses like this, you don't want to hurt him. He's still growing, so you don't want to push too hard too fast. But again, I keep trying to drive his hindquarter up underneath me and then catch it and then control it, because some of them will swing right and left, or they're leaning one direction, or maybe you're riding cockeyed and you're leaning one direction, and that is causing the horse to have a problem, or causing the saddle to dig into its back. It's not even the saddle, it's the way you're sitting. So a lot is involved. But you might see me tugging and pushing and doing all sorts of stuff. If not, start staring at my hands and my legs. I'm not just sitting here. I am working the entire time. Right here, I just kind of sat back and half halted. So I use those half halts to keep the speed. And I'm doing it with both hands, but for the bend, I'm using just the right hand. So my half halts are only once in a while with him, because for the most part, he's pretty good. Except here, he's getting dull. And then over there, which is coming up right here, he gets heavy and kind of wobbly. He's good. He's good. Now he's getting heavy. So I pick it up. When I picked up, he slowed down. You might have seen his head come up. So that was me asking him to back off of the bit. Then he kind of lost it. Now he sped up too much. So you're just constantly correcting until they do the right thing. And when they do the right thing, you leave them alone. But sometimes it takes an hour and they do it once right. But over time, if you keep practicing and you have patience and you help them, they will get there. And I can't tell you how many online lessons I've given people, and they think they're doing it right. And I was like, well, I can tell you why you're not getting it. It's not correct for that horse, and the horse is not understanding you. So we'll get it, and they get so much better if they, take the lessons. It's not like with any lessons, I'm not trying to keep people forever like some trainers are. I'm not. I want you to get better. I want you to go ride your horse and have a fun time. So I try to get you where you have good control. You can gate the horse and get the gaits you're hoping for. And then, you contact me again when you need me. So I might take 10 to 20 lessons in the beginning, but then that's it. Then you're gone. And off you are. Instead of for 10 years with that same horse trying to get it to gait or canter. He's heavy there. Good. Now, let's talk about bits a little bit. So he was in a snaffle, and you have to be pretty good to ride with a snaffle and get him to gait and get him to be light. You can do it, but I can tell you from me growing up with hunter jumper, I never wanted to ride a horse in a shank, and I never wanted to ride a horse in a Western saddle. I never even wanted to ride a gaited horse. I thought they were very weird. So now look what I'm doing. I'm riding in a shank, I've got a Western saddle on, and I'm riding a gaited horse. So never say never. Now, why am I doing those things? Well, the snaffle, a lot of these horses don't like them. Some of them do, don't get me wrong. But a lot of them don't. They have lower palates, and the snaffle just works off of their tongue, okay? So some will get heavy, and they just lean on it if you're not good with your hands. You know, like you're not an expert rider. You didn't take lots of lessons as growing up. The shank bit, if your hand is light, you got to stay light, it'll help you. It kind of hugs the horse's head more and pushes on the top of their head and under the chin, so it'll help you get their head down. It'll give you more control. So it'll help you get their head down and give you more control. It usually fits a little bit better in their mouth depending on which mouthpiece you're using. And you can have it help you for the horses that are trotty versus pacey. I use different bits usually, and then it helps much more. And then I'm much lighter with my hands. With the snaffle, I was constantly in his mouth, and if you watch a lot of dressage riders, they are in that horse's mouth adjusting the whole time. I don't want to do that. I'm trail riding. I want to set them up, leave them alone, go down the trail, set them up because there's a change in footing coming, then leave them alone. So I want to be out of their mouth, and I want them very soft and light. I want to use the Western saddle just because it's more comfortable for me, because I ride like 6 hours sometimes. I figured that out after that English saddle rubbed me pretty bad. So you get a Western saddle, and you get a fleece cover, and all those things help, because with the walking horses, you got lots of back and forth motion, and if your saddle's too big, or you're sliding around, you can get what I call baboon butt, and you get really chafed up. Now, some people don't, but I did. So I kept my saddle small to hold me so it doesn't move around much, okay? So I did lots of things I thought I would never do, but after I got bolted enough away, and the snaffle bit on horses that were trained, because people always go, well, he's not trained well enough. Oh, they had holes in their training, but why try to kill yourself? You can't always do a one-rein stop out there. So a lot of trainers don't use shanks. I will, because mine is about the people. I know you don't ride as well as me. I hope you do. Maybe you ride better, but most people don't. They haven't had as many lessons. They don't have as good balance. You need things to keep you safe, keep you in the saddle, keep your horse under control, so you can go have fun, okay? And so that's what it's about. In the beginning, I taught these horses a lot of stuff, and I wrote them all in snaffles, and I was like, oh, these people have no clue how to ride. Guess I'm going to change. So I changed, and it's much better, because otherwise the horses had too many buttons. They hit the buttons, and the horse got confused, and the person got confused, and they couldn't ride well in a snaffle, so the horses were fine. It was the people. So that's why I tend to use the other bit. And you might be a trainer going, well, all mine ride in snaffles. We ride where it's scary, there's drop-offs, there's no fences, it's not an arena, and so we have to make sure they stop. So yes, we train them, but we got to make sure people have good control. Okay, so I think he's probably exhausted. That's it for today. That's him. And remember, if you have a walking horse, make sure you've taught her all the basics. Make sure you're riding it from the back to the front. You're engaging its back end. His front end is light. Your horse looks similar to how I'm riding him, and you'll be much safer and have fun and good gaits. All right, I hope that helps. Remember to like and subscribe.